Revenues by about $50 million last season, the NFL tackled the recession yesterday with 14 games kicking off and 14 selling out. The league will keep its perfect record tonight when the Buffalo Bills take on the New England Patriots and the San Diego Chargers face the Oakland Raiders. For more on the state of the league, I'm joined by CBS Sportscaster Lesley Visser, the only woman in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and a mentor from day one for me in the industry. Leslie, good to see you.
It is so great to be here with you, Alexis.
First and foremost, I have to ask you about being the first woman to do the color commentating in the middle of an NFL game. You just did that recently. What was that like?
To be honest, I was nervous, which I hadn't been in maybe 10 or 15 years. It was the first woman analyst in an NFL booth. I do the Dolphin preseason games, and Bob Greasy had another commitment. So I was trying to channel my inner John Madden. But I think it went okay. I think it showed that a woman could handle it.
Is that something you've thought or dreamed of doing, or is it something that you had done just about everything on every sport field everywhere, but did you want to do that?
No, it was never something. I understand that even becoming the first sideline reporter was such an advancement. I was the first woman on Monday Night Football, and that took 30 years. You know, now people take it for granted. I always say that my greatest contribution was I got them ladies' rooms, which is not insignificant, is it?
It is not insignificant.
No, they had none of them in stadiums for the media. So I never thought about being in a booth. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure it'd be something I'd want to pursue.
You know, you and I had a phone conversation a little bit over 15 years ago, and when I walked in, you said, Alexis, we had a phone conversation, and you were giving me advice on this industry when I was intrigued by it. It was probably more than 15 years ago. What kind of advice do you give to women out there? Because I remember you saying to me then, you got to know what you're talking. You have to know your information. You have to study, work hard, be as smart or smarter than your competition.
Well, to put it simply, and by the way, you were so neat. Why didn't you come into our business?
I still love it. I'm still fantasizing.
Plenty of room. I have one thought on it. There are two kinds of women who do this. There are women who love sports and they end up in TV, and then there are women who want to be on TV and they end up in sports. And after a while, you can tell who those women are. So I recommend two things: a passion for it, which will lead you, I think, to an excellence. And also, I tell young women to turn the sound down so that you see what's happening. I mean, do you see the safety blitz? Do you see a box and one in basketball? Don't listen to your sister, your mother, your father, your brother. What do you see?
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL season kicking off. I was sitting here with Jimmy Johnson just a couple of days ago, and I said, Jimmy, the possibility of blacking out 20% of the games is egregious. It's outrageous. Here it is. They were able to sell out the games.
They did. That won't last. I mean, it won't last. Now, I actually am of the mind that the league is doing the right thing. I mean, it is a business. It's not a nonprofit industry, and they're trying to protect the gate. As Commissioner Roger Goodell says, we want people in the stands. And I understand for this year we're all in such an economic crunch, but don't you know that once you give something, it's hard to take it back? Mm-hmm. And I think in the long run it would not be good for the league if people thought I can just stay home on a lousy day. I
mean, usually the blackout rule, though, suggests that you got to sell out 72 hours in advance, and a couple of those teams didn't sell out until the last 24 hours. But I presume you believe that if they stay hard and fast on this, it'll be a better opportunity for the clubs to sell out as we move into the season.
Yeah, and usually the local station will pick it up, but you know, it's a difficult time right now in the NFL, and I think the blackouts have worked for decades for a reason.
It's a difficult time, and yet it was such an exciting day. And you look at, first of all, the ratings on the opening night there. Boy, they put out all the stops for that opening night. But you got great stories in Sanchez here at the Jets. I mean, that was a surprise yesterday. You got the Giants back out there looking pretty good. Tom Brady. I mean, you walk me through. What are the stories that you think are going to be highlight stories this year?
Well, just as you mentioned, usually quarterbacks are the story of the NFL. We saw Brett Favre. So strange, right, to see him. Even more strange than because the Jet uniform was green, but seeing him in purple, the hated rivals of the Packers. But we saw Brett had a solid day, didn't make any mistakes. As you said, Sanchez here with the Jets. Drew Brees matched a club record. He's fantastic.
Jeremy Shockey, my former Giant,
right.
had a great game there.
He didn't score all last year, so that was no touchdowns last year, so that was tremendous. You see the young rookies, Flacco in Baltimore, Matt Ryan, or not rookie, second year, Matt Ryan in Atlanta. Now the one rookie who really struggled was the poor kid in Detroit, Stafford, who hard to make the case for him starting, and I think he threw 3 interceptions. So usually quarterbacks, you keep your eye on them and you can follow the season.
It's interesting because a lot of people talked about the Eagles yesterday. I know McNabb got an injury. I think he had a rib injury, and there's all this talk now about whether or not he'll start. And Michael Vick cannot start until the 3rd game. What if we get to that situation? What if we're sitting here and Michael Vick, who's really, as everybody says, not really ready to step into the game, is the guy they choose? Does that change the season for them?
You might see more of him, but he's absolutely not ready to be an NFL quarterback. Donovan, you know how resilient he is. I mean, to me, he's so underrated. He's been in 5 NFC championships, and people just, with Donovan, they sort of always wait for the other shoe to drop. But I think Michael Vick, now the protests were very limited. They said there was 1 protester yesterday outside the stadium in Carolina. But I think they'll bring back another quarterback. I think either Garcia or A.J. Feely, both who played with the Eagles, I think you'll see them return. But down the road, I believe we will see more of Michael Vick.
A lot is going on in the NFL, aside from the advertising and the dollars and cents. There's all this talk about collective bargaining and whether or not a deal or a lockout will occur. You've seen this business and this NFL evolve tremendously. Are we headed toward a lockout?
Very interesting question, and it's truly unknown right now. There is great uncertainty, great labor uncertainty in the NFL. As you know, the collective bargaining agreement expires in 2011. The owners, a year and a half ago, opted out of the agreement, so that next year would be an uncapped year. Now, on Commissioner Goodell's side, he is saying he is not going to have public rhetoric about it. They just wants to get to the table for a new collective bargaining agreement. On the other side, well, the owners are saying we're giving 60% to the players, and the rookie salaries are out of control. On the other side, DeMaurice Smith, the new executive director of the NFLPA, he says, why would an $8 billion industry want to shut down? And he is encouraging the players to start saving 25% of their salaries. So it is a possibility.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, especially when you see some of those rookie contracts, those new quarterback contracts. Oh my goodness, the money was outrageous. I mean, Eli, I know he's not a rookie, but that, what, $97 million contract? That was
well, and they beat the Redskins yesterday, and Albert Hainsworth, the defensive lineman for the Redskins, is being paid $100 million.
Yeah, he looked pretty good.
Don't you think we both deserve a raise?
I mean, seriously, when you think about the dollars that we're talking about the cap on Wall Street, how about a cap on these guys? It was wonderful seeing you, Lesley, and continued success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexis.